Okay, back with a new video for the first time in a while. Haven't been doing these videos as nearly as much lately, but to me the videos are kind of just like whether I feel motivated or not on a particular topic. You know, if I have a clear, concise topic that I want to hit and that I feel motivated about. Because sometimes I try to kind of force myself to do a video about something I'm not that excited about, or just like, hey, I need to keep content going on my channel, as if my channel's ever gonna amount to anything. But I don't really feel into it. Whatever I'm gonna do content about, I'm not really. But I got a couple, about three, probably four good video ideas coming in the near future. I want to do a gun one, about the best concealed carry method with my Ruger LCP that I recently discovered. This video, obviously. I'll probably do a review on my Series X because I have a brand new Xbox Series X. And then, the fourth one. Oh, I got T-Mobile home internet now, which I'm really excited about. Not excited because it's actually slower than my normal internet, but I'm so excited because I've never had an internet option at my home. I was always stuck with the cable company, and that sucked. Now I've got an option. Even if it's slower, it's still an option. It's cheaper too. And for whatever, I just think it's really cool that I can get internet now over LTE. It feels amazing. But anyway, none of that's the subject. And so I'm probably going to do a review on T-Mobile home internet soon. But the main thing I wanted to do today is talk about latest fanboy nonsense, PlayStation, Xbox fanboy nonsense that I like to indulge in. It's all in good fun, and that is, so I've been saying the Xbox Series X is more powerful, which it is, but all those Sony fanboys are always around, and they're always the hordes of them, and they're always agitating, and always worried about Xbox, and what's happened is, I see this on Twitter now, and on Reset Era and other Sony fanboy hive forums, that they're now that the PS5 and Xbox Series X are out, a few multi-platform comparisons have come out. And I kind of already knew this was going to happen because Digital Foundry had hinted on it, etc. That basically they were kind of going to be a tie and that people might be surprised. So I kind of expected, I guess. I was a little disappointed, to be honest, But I now see PS fanboys doing their usual obnoxiousness, like on Twitter, and lying. And they're saying, like, oh, PS5 is winning these face-offs. And, oh, look, PS5 is winning all these face-offs. And even, I think one told me on Twitter that the PS5 is crushing the Xbox Series X. What a bunch of fanboy freaking nonsense from the PlayStation fanboys, as usual. Now, what they're talking about is just a particular... I really like them because a YouTube channel called VG Tech. Now, there's plenty of comparison channels out there. But I like the ones, actually, I don't like NX Gamer because he's a big PlayStation fanboy. I like Digital Foundry. They're kind of like the gold standard. And there's a couple more. There's VG Tech is one, and there's a Hispanic one. I don't know if he's Portuguese or what, but he's Spanish or something El Anista de Bits or something weird, but he it's kind of obviously a Spanish language channel, but it's also, he always also does like an English, like he'll post the same thing in the description twice, like once in English, and it's good English. It's not like auto translated English or something, so it's kind of like a dual language channel, I guess. So it's good for English speakers like me, can use it too. And I like him. I can't remember, he doesn't really he does side-by-sides and stuff. But, so I like all of them except NX Gamer because he's just going to take the Sony side. He's just a die-hard Sony fanboy. Digital Foundry has one die-hard Sony fanboy on their crew who's infected them, John Linneman. He's clearly... But he hides it a little better than most Sony fanboys. And he, overall as a overall channel, they're not too bad, but they're getting to the point where they're kind of Sony fanboys, but they do very detailed comparisons, so I think that they're the most accurate to really look at the whole video. What I don't like about them is they don't do frame rate. Here's what I love about VG Tech. I think LNECD Bits at least tells you the average and stuff too. I forget. But what I want is hard objective data. And I hate when Digital Foundry does this. They don't ever give you hard data. What they'll do is they'll show sections and they'll show some frame rates from the game. And they'll go like, oh, well, we see in this section the Xbox is getting a slightly better frame rate, or the PS5 is getting a slightly better frame rate, or whatever it is. But that varies. It's not like the PS5 is always in the lead. The Xbox sometimes. Why don't they just give us these stats like VG Tech does? They give you a link in their description of their YouTube videos to these great stats. And I love numbers, so maybe I'm biased because I just love having these numbers. But you see here, they've got everything. So you don't have to debate, and you don't have to take anybody's word for it. That's the key. Because sometimes Digital Foundry will tell you kind of what their opinion is. They'll say like, oh, over most of the game, the PS or the Xbox, either one is ahead in frame rate. But you're like looking at the video and you're like, it's kind of 50-50, you know? Like it's kind of more of their opinion of what is happening, kind of. Whereas you can't lie about objective stats, you know? That's the same thing PlayStation fanboys do all the time. They'll be like, oh, The Last of Us 2 looks incredible. Okay, that's just a subjective opinion. But if you want to look at the objective stats, you know, you'll find it runs at 30 frames per second. Probably doesn't even maintain a locked 30. You know, so if you look at the subjective, PS fanboys are right in their element because they can just say whatever they feel like. And there's no counter. But if you look at objective stats, like, The Last of Us 2 runs at 28 to 30 frames per second, and it's at 1080p, or, you know, whatever it is. I don't even know. That's not all that impressive, you know. It's nowadays everything's supposed to be 60 frames per second. Why is The Last of Us 2 60 frames per second? Or maybe you might say The Last of Us 2 dips from 30, you know. Once you start looking at objective things, of course, Sony exclusives can't hold up. But so that's why I prefer objective stats, because we can say like this game's frame rate is X instead of Sony fanboys saying this game looks incredible. Well, that's just your opinion, man. And you're just saying that because you like Sony and it's Sony exclusive, you know. So I like to take things out of the realm of subjective, although there is a place for subjective too, but into the realm of objective. So that's, again, another reason why I love these frame rate stats that VG Tech does. It's so much better than just taking their word for it or looking at a video and, okay, this console leads now, and it's kind of hard to make heads or tails of it. But if you get a stat that shows you this console average is higher, you know, it's easier to tell. I mean, sometimes you can just tell, obviously, but... So here's what happened. In Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, a couple of games, like literally, first of all, the PS5 has quote-unquote won a couple of these face-offs. I think there's Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So that's 2, okay? So let's start by saying it's 2 freaking games that these PS5 fanboys are basing all this, oh, we're winning the face-offs nonsense on. Okay, 2. And maybe I forgot about Watch Dogs Legion. I'm not even sure there. I can't remember, but I don't have it pulled up before this video, so I can't look at it now. But, so, you know, so let's look at, and here's another thing that's a situation that's developing. The PS5 is turning out to be better at 125 frames per second gaming for some reason, but only very slightly better. Like almost nothing, okay? But if you look at these same games, 68 frames per second mode, often the Xbox is winning, okay? But the Xbox seems to just be a little behind in 120 FPS mode right now. And we don't know why. Nobody knows why, really. But the leading candidates, it's almost certainly not that we know that the Xbox Series X GPU is more powerful, so it can be a few things, but it's probably that there's one, I think. One of the things I saw on some technical forum was something to the effect that the PS5 has these caches or different caches in its CPU, and they're like super high speed or something. And then once you get to 120 FPS, these types of caches become really important because the frame times are so fast at 120 FPS. They're like 8 milliseconds per frame. That you just don't have time for anything. And it's these little caches on the CPU that the PS5 is a little faster in or something. Or has that the Xbox Series X don't really benefit at 120 FPS. And I'm sorry I can't give a better explanation than that. It was something about the CPU caches somebody was speculating. And it's not even like accepted speculation. It's just something I read that kind of made sense to me. So basically, it's like something deep in the PS5 CPU, maybe a little better at 125 FPS gaming for some reason, you know. Basically, to put it to a layman. That could be something. Another thing that I think Digital Foundry has speculated a lot is that the Xbox SDK that they're developing on, apparently it's a new one with the Series X, and apparently some developers aren't loving it, and off the record they're complaining about it and this and that. It's one of those things where, yeah, you know, it'll improve, so it's just a temporary situation. But like right now, they're not thrilled with the Xbox software development environment. And it's theorized that this may be holding the Xbox Series X back at 120 FPS a little bit or whatever. Again, it's hard to say what's right and what's wrong, or what's speculation. But I wanted to look at these Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War PS5 versus Xbox Series XS frame rate comparison stats from VG Tech's YouTube video. You can find it in the description on there. And so what is the PS5 crushing the Xbox Series X? It averages 117.02 frames per second in the 120 FPS mode, the PS5. The Series X averages 114.93, basically almost 115. So there's almost no difference there. You know what I mean? Look at these stats all the way down. You know, every stat is like almost exactly the same. Now, so we should say that the assets are apparently pretty much the same in these games, and the the graphics are the same. They're the same. So we're just comparing frame rates. We can't say like, oh, the Xbox Series X has much better whatever draw distance or higher resolution, so of course it's running a little slower or whatever. No, supposedly they're pretty much identical. Although I saw somebody on one of these videos saying that, oh, the PS5 has more smoke on its gun frames, and they're trying to cover that up, that the Xbox Series X couldn't do that effect, or some nonsense that I'm sure was just a bug or something nobody ever would really notice or something. But yeah, but you see, the Xbox Series X has a little bit more torn frames, It's losing pretty much consistently, although minimum frame time is a little better on the Series X. 95th percentile. See, it's just consistent through here that it's losing a very little bit. And yeah, we see that the frame time counts. Okay, you're seeing them just like me. That yeah, like the PS5 is consistently winning, but by a very little bit. Like I said, just look at the mean frames, like 117 versus 150. It's not like PS5 is even hitting 120 even either. But that's in 120 FPS mode. They have different modes. They have like 60 FPS mode too, with a little better. So we look at 60 FPS mode, and look. PS5 is 59.99, Xbox Series X is 60. So Xbox wins the 60 FPS mode. All these fanboys are acting like, oh, PS5 is winning the face-offs. No, it's only winning one little mode in the face-offs. The other mode, the Xbox is winning. Look at minimum frame rate. The PS5 dips to 58, the Xbox Series X dips to 59. So it's higher, And same through the 16.67 milliseconds. Only 99.96 of the PS5, 99.99 of the Series X. Every stat, torn frames, PS5 has 6, Xbox Series X only has 2. Every single stat, the Xbox Series X is winning in the 60 FPS mode. And the Xbox Series S is falling behind a little more. We don't care about that. 60 FPS, 59.99. Torn frames, 6, only 2. So the Xbox point is, maximum frame time, PS5 is slower. So the point is, the Series X is winning the 60 FPS mode. Again, winning, I could put it in quotes because it's incredibly close. But it's incredibly close in 120 too. That's what kind of ticks me off. PS fanboys are, basically these are a tie, I'm sorry. PS5 has like a slight, but I would call it negligible difference in 120 FPS mode. But Xbox Series X has also a very, very, very tiny edge in the 60 FPS mode, if you're going to say that. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So we see that PS5 isn't beating Xbox Series X on the Black Ops Cold War comparison. It wins the 120 FPS mode, barely. I don't think it's a worthwhile edge at all. Like you'd buy the PS5 because it runs better. It's nothing, it's less than 2%, I guess. You could look at it that way. literally. It's basically running at 117 average versus basically 115 average, But then again, Xbox Series X is holding ever so slightly better to 60 FPS. And then, PS5 right down the line, the minimum frame rate 58 on the PS5, Xbox Series X only dips to 59. So again, the PS5 isn't even winning these comparisons. It's winning the 120 FPS mode of the comparison. And then we can also look the Devil May Cry, which I have a screenshot here, or not a screenshot, but I froze it here. You can see that this is Xbox Series X and how it's a normal mode 4K. It's running faster than the PS5, and nobody talks about that. And then here's where it kind of came out that this Xbox Series X is struggling with 120 FPS mode is in Devil May Cry 5, because that's like one of the first comparisons that came out. The PS5 actually was a little faster in the 120 FPS mode. But there's like 4 modes here. There's normal mode 4K. I don't remember what they all are. I think there's like ray trace 4K. And there's like performance 4K. And there's like 120 FPS 4K. I don't remember what the 4 modes are. But there's 4 different modes in Devil May Cry 5. And the Xbox Series X wins 3 of them. Okay, it wins every mode but the 120 FPS mode. Okay? As far as frame rate, the games are identical graphically, more or less. But the Xbox Series X wins every mode, but not by that much, but it still wins them. But, everybody's just going to focus on, the PS5 won the 120 FPS. Well, why? That's bias, Like, if you win, it's like if you're a sports team, you play a 4-game series, and your team wins 3 of them, the other team wins 1, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, the one team won 1 of the 4. Wow. Team A beat Team B in that 4th game. Well, yeah, what about all the other 3 games? That's biased to only talk about the one that your team won or whatever. That's what they're doing with this, as always, because there's so many PlayStation fanboys, they dominate the conversation. So they're talking like, PS5 is winning these. No, it's losing Devil May Cry because it lost 3 out of 4 of the performance modes, the different modes. Like I say, you can see here the normal mode 4K, it loses. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I was wanted to look at this and towards the average mean frame rate. Okay, we see the PS5 is doing 59.85. The Series X is doing 59.62. And it's about that way all the way through. This PS5 is a very slight but consistent, I guess, edge. Okay, and this is a 60 FPS mode. I'll give it that. And the Series X has more torn frames. Alright, so it does win. The PS5 does win a 60 FPS mode. But, on the other hand, the Xbox Series X wins the 60 FPS mode on Black Ops Cold War. And it wins 3 out of the 4 modes on Devil May Cry. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, to say that the PS5, now, like I said, I think mainly the takeaway you can boil down is to, for some reason, maybe it's those CPU caches I was talking about. Maybe it's the Xbox software development environment and it'll just go away over time. Whatever the reasoning, it seems like the PS5 is doing a little bit. I'm thinking it might be just because the certain parts of the uncore, so to speak, of the PS5 GPU are clocked really high. So, like, the parts like the ROPS and the texture address units and stuff are running a little higher clocks. So maybe that's why. Whereas the Xbox Series X has more like parallel grunt, but it's not, certain parts of it are running slower. I think maybe that could be a reason why. Who knows why? It seems like the PS5 has tiny, but again, I'll say all the caveats here. This is like 2-3 games. I wish I'd have pulled up Watch Dogs Legion now, but I didn't. This is like 2 to 3 games. Xbox Series X won the Devil May Cry 3 out of 4. It won the 60 FPS Call of Duty Black Ops mode. So those are like ties. It lost by a tiny bit in AC Valhalla, I guess. So, again, it's all nonsense by PS5 fanboys. Oh, the PS5's crushing the Xbox. No, it's not. It's not even coming close. It's not even winning, really. It won, like, and these wins are like 0.1%. It basically ties. I'll say the same thing for Xbox if it won. So, it's inconclusive, like I said. And, Further, I'll say, like, yes, this is early software. These are just ports. These are like the laziest ports in the world. They're just current gen games ported. They aren't stressing this hardware at all, you know? They aren't optimized at all. Let's wait until we start seeing games that push this hardware, and let's just see, because I have a pretty good feeling about the Series X, you know? I would be pretty sure that the Series X is going to look better in the future than the PS5. And I'm pretty sure PS fanboys know that's true too, and they know what's coming in the future. So yeah, I just wanted to clear up some lies from PS5 fanboys, some nonsense and misconceptions. For some reason, the PS5 is the ever so slight edge in 120 FPS mode so far in like the 2 or 3 games tested. You know, but these are like the most basic, non-graphically impressive games. It's probably down to just the development environments right now. And Xbox seems a little behind on that right now. But I guarantee you, once we get into the games that start pushing the hardware a little bit, you're going to see the Series X start taking over. And oh, believe me, I'll be making videos when that happens. Because I'll be having fun with it. The fact is, the Series X has 18% more GPU flops. It has 25% more GPU bandwidth. It's just more powerful. There's no way around it. PS5 fanboys want to, you know, obfuscate everything, say they look the same. There's no difference. That's what the weaker console always does, you know. Same thing Xbox fanboys were doing with Xbox One versus PS4. Oh, nobody will know the difference, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they will, and yeah, there is a difference. And it's the same this time around. Yeah, the Xbox Series X is more powerful. You might not like it, but it is. And yeah, there is a difference. And yeah, you're going to be able to see the difference, okay? You know, all PS fanboys, like I said, they dominate the conversation because there's like 10 of them for every Xbox fanboy. And they're so aggressive. And they're always on the internet seeking out the Xbox to attack. That's all they're ever thinking about is Xbox. So, you know, so that's why they tend to spread all the FUD and everything and sort of frame the debate how they want it. So yeah, like if this was PS5, they would be telling you like how if the PS5 had the more flops and everything, they'd be telling you how like, oh, there's no possible way the Series X can keep up. Oh, the Xbox is a weak console. And all these things where the Series X was winning the face-offs, nobody would even be talking about. Like not one person would be talking about them, you know? Because the PS fanboys would just ignore them. That's how they work, you know? And so they set the tone, and nobody would be talking about the fact that, oh, Xbox Series X was, if the situation was reversed, I mean. But anyway, so, like I said, watch out for future. This is like 2 games. This is like 1% PS5 wins in some modes. Overall, the Series X is holding its own fine and winning a lot of the modes. And we'll see, you know, it's probably software. We're hearing a lot of that. And that'll get straightened out in time. And the Xbox Series X is more powerful. And we'll be seeing it. And so, you know, and I saw Boogie, such an idiot, Boogie2988, who's always been a PlayStation fanboy, made a video about how, oh, the Series X dashboard is no different. First of all, it is. Somebody posted a pic. It's different. Second of all, he's saying that because the PS5 naturally happened to redo their dash. So since they did and Xbox didn't this time randomly, he's making a big deal like, oh, the PS5, you know, he's highlighting something that MS didn't do. And somebody posted like, well, iPhone never changes and people buy those every year by the billions, you know. So why is it not okay for Xbox Series X UI to not change? And like I said, it did change. It's just a freaking typical farce. PS fanboys will find something that PS5 did, change their operating system, that they didn't do last time. Last time they still went with the crossbar system that they had before. And I didn't see Boogie complaining then, you know. Where's Boogie's video from 2013 talking about how, oh, the PS4 UI is the same as it was in the PS3 gen. This isn't next gen. Well, he didn't make one, of course, because he never criticizes Sony, you know, or if he does, he's just jumping in the crowd. He doesn't really mean it. He's a huge PS fanboy. I've always known that, and he always. The thing I notice about PS fanboys is they almost always claim they're PC fanboys. That's like the number one tell that somebody's a PS fanboy is if they claim they're a PC fanboy. And they also claim they're not a fanboy. Those are like the 2 things. And they'll throw in the infamous, well, I own an Xbox. Okay, so that means you can't be a fanboy now? Like, what are you talking about? Anyways, So yeah, just wanted to clear all that up about the Xbox Series X power.